The music was still playing when Jennifer Carr pulled the badge off her own chest and set it down on the table between them, like she was laying down a weapon.
I quit.
Yong-Sook didn't move, didn't blink. Behind him, 40,000 people were still screaming his name through 2 concrete walls. In front of him, the only person who had never once screamed it was walking away.
You don't mean that.
I have never meant anything more in my life.
That should have been the end. The same way every rumor said she would leave eventually. The same way everyone around him always left. Bought off, scared off, or worn down until nothing remained but a name on a contract no one read. Except 3 days earlier, someone had tried to destroy her career, her name, and everything she had built in this industry. Yong-Sook was the one who put the pieces together too late to stop it. Now he had exactly one chance to fix what he broke. And about 90 seconds before she reached the elevator, that would prove even the most powerful idol in the world couldn't always get what he wanted.
Hey besties, welcome back to another story. If you're new here, we are glad to have you. Drop a comment telling me where you are watching from. Now, let's go back to where this really started.
3 years before that hallway, Jennifer Carr was sitting in a cramped office in downtown Los Angeles, reading a press release with her own research printed, word for word, under someone else's byline. She had spent 11 months investigating a financial story that could have made her career, chasing down documents nobody wanted her to find, staying late while her editor took the credit meetings during the day, and disappeared during the nights that actually mattered. When the story ran, her name wasn't on it. His was. And when she confronted him, he told her exactly what men like that always told women like her.
You should be flattered I even let you help.
She didn't sue. She didn't scream. She packed a single suitcase, cashed out what savings she had, and took the first job that would get her out of that city entirely. An entertainment management position at a talent agency in Seoul that needed someone fluent in English, ruthless with contracts, and completely unimpressed by famous people. She was exactly what they were looking for, because Jennifer Carr had already learned the hardest lesson a person can learn early in life. Talent gets you noticed. Reliability gets you used. But the person who refuses to be impressed by anyone is the only person who never gets played. She built a reputation fast. Within 18 months, she wasn't managing rookies anymore. She was managing crises, the kind of PR disasters that could end a career in 48 hours if the wrong person handled them the wrong way. She fixed 3 of them before anyone at the agency even knew there'd been a fire to put out. That reputation was exactly why, when the agency's biggest asset needed a new manager, after burning through 4 in 18 months, her name was the only one on the shortlist. Yong-Sook did not remember agreeing to that meeting. What he remembered was walking into the agency conference room 40 minutes late, expecting to charm his way through another manager who would either fall apart under pressure or fall for him within the month, whichever came first, and instead finding a woman already standing, already reading his contract renewal terms out loud from memory, who didn't look up when he walked in.
You are late.
I'm always late.
Not anymore. I don't manage people who waste my time, Mr. Chong. I manage careers. If you want a babysitter, I can recommend 3. If you want someone who keeps you relevant, instead of forgotten, sit down and listen.
Nobody talked to him like that. Not his mother, not his old managers, not the label executives who orbited him like he was the only planet in the room. For a long moment he just stood there, genuinely unsure whether he was furious or fascinated, and later he would admit to himself it had been both in exactly equal measure. He sat down anyway. To understand why that mattered, you have to understand what Yong-Sook actually was by that point in his career. He wasn't just an idol, he was an institution. 11 years in the industry, 3 sold-out world tours, a face on more billboards across Asia than any politician alive, and a reputation, whispered about in every green room from Seoul to Los Angeles, that no woman had ever said no to him, and meant it. Actresses, fellow idols, heiresses, Journalists who were supposed to be objective, all of them eventually softened under the particular weight of his attention, because that was the thing about Yong-Sook nobody talked about publicly. It wasn't just the face or the money. It was the way he looked at a person, like they were the only interesting thing in a room full of noise, right up until he got bored and moved on to the next one. He had never once had to work for anything that mattered to him, because everything that mattered to him had always simply arrived. Jennifer Carr did not arrive. Jennifer Carr had to be dealt with. The first few months were purely professional, or at least Jennifer made sure they stayed that way. She renegotiated 3 of his endorsement deals that his previous manager had quietly let the label undercut him on. She caught a scheduling conflict that would have had him performing with a fever in front of 80,000 people and rerouted the entire week without a single headline about it. She turned down 2 magazine features that would have painted him exactly the way the tabloids wanted, reckless, careless, untouchable, and replaced them with a single interview she wrote every question for herself. Slowly, without either of them fully naming it, Yong-Sook started noticing something he had never noticed about anyone who worked for him before. Jennifer Carr was never impressed by him, and somehow, that made him desperate to impress her anyway.
Why don't you laugh at my jokes?
He asked her once, 4 months in, during a 3 a.m. flight back from Tokyo, where everyone else on the private jet was asleep.
Because they're not funny.
Everyone else laughs.
Everyone else works for you. I work for your career. There's a difference, and you should be grateful somebody in this industry can still tell you the truth.
He watched her for a long moment after that, the way the cabin lights caught the side of her face, the exhaustion she never let show in front of anyone, but somehow couldn't fully hide from him anymore. "You're different," he said quietly. "No," Jennifer said. "I'm just not for sale." That's rarer than different, but it's not the same thing. That was the moment, if you asked him later, if you pushed him hard enough to actually name it, that Yong-Sook stopped seeing Jennifer Carr as a manager and started seeing her as a problem he genuinely could not solve, which for a man who had never failed to get exactly what he wanted, was its own kind of addiction. Yong-Sook tried everything a man like him knew how to try. He sent her coffee exactly the way she liked it before she'd even ordered it herself, having quietly memorized her order after the second week. He rearranged his own schedule so their working dinners ran later than they needed to, just to keep her in a room with him a little longer. He learned, without ever asking, that she hadn't taken a real vacation in 3 years, that she called her mother back in Ohio every Sunday at exactly the same hour no matter what time zone she was in, that she kept a photograph in her wallet of a younger sister she never talked about, unless someone asked directly, and even then, only in careful, guarded sentences. He noticed all of it, the way he'd learned to notice everything about an audience that mattered to him, except Jennifer Carr wasn't an audience, and the harder he tried, the more clearly she saw exactly what he was doing. "You don't have to charm me, Yong-Sook," she told him one night, using his given name for the first time, which surprised them both. "I already work for you. You don't need to win anything." "Maybe I'm not trying to win," he said. "Everyone is always trying to win with you," Jennifer said. "That's the whole problem. I've seen the headlines. I've read your file. I know exactly what happens to women who let their guard down around you, and I like my guard exactly where it is. Thank you." "You think I'd do that to you?" he said. And something in his voice had shifted, quieter now, almost hurt. "I think you've never had to try for anything in your life," Jennifer said honestly, "which means I have no idea what you'd actually do if you got something you couldn't just walk away from when you got bored. And I'm not interested in finding out the hard way." It was the most honest thing anyone had said to him in over a decade, and it landed harder than any headline ever had. He didn't push after that. Not directly. But something in him had already shifted. The beginning of a slow, uncomfortable recognition that for the first time in his adult life, he genuinely wanted to become someone worth Jennifer Carr's trust, rather than simply someone she couldn't ignore. The 2 years that followed built something neither of them planned for, and both of them were too careful to name. It wasn't romance, not officially. It was competence, respect, the strange intimacy of two people who trusted each other with things that mattered more than either of their reputations. Jennifer caught a leaked set list before it could ruin his comeback single's surprise reveal. Yong-Sook, without telling her, quietly funded a scholarship in her sister's name, after finally learning why Jennifer never talked about her, a sister with a learning disability that had made their childhood in Ohio harder than Jennifer had ever admitted to anyone in this industry. When Jennifer found out, months later, by accident, she didn't thank him the way most people thanked him. She sat across from him in his own kitchen and said, quietly, "You didn't have to do that." "I know," he said. "That's why I did it." It was around then that the industry started noticing something was different about Yong-Sook, even if nobody could quite name what. He turned down 3 high-profile dating rumors the label wanted him to lean into for publicity. He stopped attending the after-parties he used to be infamous for. He started showing up early to things, actually early, a change so out of character that 2 entertainment blogs ran separate articles speculating he was either sick or secretly engaged. Neither was true. The truth was simpler and far more dangerous to a man like him. Yong-Sook had fallen in love with the one person in his life who had never once needed him to be anything other than exactly who he actually was, and he had absolutely no idea what to do about it. He might have found a way to tell her eventually, on his own terms, in his own time. He never got the chance, because that was exactly when Han Do-jin decided Jennifer Carr had become a problem worth eliminating. Han Do-jin ran the largest rival entertainment conglomerate in the country, a man who had spent 15 years watching Yong-Sook's agency eat into market share that used to belong entirely to him. He didn't hate Yong-Sook specifically. He hated losing, and for the first time in years his flagship rival group's comeback was about to be buried under Yong-Sook's own return to the stage. A global release timed to dominate every chart Do-jin's own artists needed to survive their fiscal year. Do-jin didn't need to destroy Yong-Sook to win. He just needed to create enough chaos around him to delay the release by even a few critical weeks. And he'd spent enough years in this industry to know exactly where the weak point in any idol's armor usually was. Not the idol, the person closest to him. It started small, the way these things always do. An anonymous account began posting screenshots online, supposedly private messages between Jennifer and a music journalist, discussing leaked information about Yong-Sook's unreleased comeback single, weeks before its official announcement. The messages were fabricated, expertly, stitched together from real fragments of Jennifer's actual writing style, pulled from years of public interviews she'd given on his behalf, but fabricated all the same. By the time anyone at the agency saw them, they'd already been reposted 11,000 times. The headline that broke first was the one that hurt worst. Yong-Sook's American manager selling his secrets for a payday. Sources say affair behind label's back. Jennifer read it standing in her own kitchen at 6 in the morning, coffee going cold in her hand, and felt something in her chest cave in the exact same way it had 3 years earlier in that Los Angeles office, watching someone else's name sit on top of her own work. She went straight to the agency. The CEO, a cautious man named Mr. Beck, who had never fully trusted an American manager handling their biggest asset in the first place, was already waiting for her with a face that told her everything before he opened his mouth.
"We need to discuss temporarily reassigning you until this settles."
This is fabricated. I have never leaked a single piece of information in 3 years, and you know that.
I know what I believe, but the board doesn't run on belief, Miss Carr. It runs on optics, and right now the optics are a disaster.
So you're punishing me for something I didn't do because it looks bad?
I'm protecting the comeback, which protects your job, if you'd let me.
Jennifer stood there for a long moment, feeling something she recognized instantly, and hated even more the second time around. The particular, familiar sensation of being disposable to people who had used her competence for years and would abandon her the second it became inconvenient to keep believing in her. Yong-Sook found out 2 hours later, and by the time he did, the damage inside the agency had already calcified into something closer to policy than gossip. He went straight to Mr. Beck's office without an appointment, which he had never done in 11 years of working there.
Reverse it. I can't. The board already voted this morning. She is suspended pending investigation. There is no investigation. There is a lie some coward posted online, and you're letting it ruin her career. I'm protecting your comeback.
Mr. Beck said, echoing exactly what he'd told Jennifer 2 hours earlier, and something about hearing the same hollow sentence twice in one day made Yong-Sook's voice go dangerously quiet.
You're protecting the label's stock price. There is a difference, and you should know it better than anyone in this building.
He walked out before Mr. Beck could respond, already dialing a number he hadn't used in years, a private investigator his own family had once used to vet his early relationships, a man who owed him a favor large enough to move fast and stay quiet. Meanwhile, Jennifer packed the first box of her office belongings alone, in silence, refusing every offer of help from the 2 junior staffers who actually believed her and were too afraid to say so publicly. 3 years of building a reputation from nothing, and it had taken 48 hours and 1 anonymous account to make every single person around her question whether she'd ever actually deserved it. That was the night she found Yong-Sook waiting outside her apartment building, in the rain, without security, without an umbrella, looking like a man who had walked there directly from something urgent rather than arrived by car.
You shouldn't be here. You could be photographed.
I don't care. I found something.
He held up his phone, an email his investigator had traced within hours, a payment record linking the anonymous account directly to a shell company, registered under one of Han Do-jin's known associates.
It was a setup, from the beginning. Do-jin wanted to delay the comeback, and he used you to do it, because he knew it would hurt me worse than any actual scandal would.
Jennifer stared at the screen for a long moment, feeling something complicated rise in her chest, relief tangled together with a fresh, sharper anger she hadn't expected.
This proves I didn't leak anything. It proves someone deliberately destroyed my name to hurt you.
I know, and I'm going to fix it.
How? By what? Threatening him? Buying silence? That's exactly the kind of thing that makes this worse, not better.
Then tell me what you want me to do, because I am not standing here and watching them throw you away for something that was never true, Jennifer. Not you. Not after everything.
Something in the way he said her name, no title, no distance, just her actual name, made Jennifer's carefully maintained composure crack for the first time in 3 days. I want the truth out, she said, her voice unsteady in a way she hated. Not because I want revenge, because I am so tired, Yong-Sook, of watching men decide what happens to my career while I stand there and take it. I did that once already. I am not doing it again. Then we do it together, he said, publicly, with proof, in a way nobody can spin into something else. Now, if you've ever had to fight to prove something you never should have had to prove in the first place, tell me about it in the comments, because Jennifer's next move is exactly why this story is about to explode, and I promise you, you do not want to miss what happens at that award show. The Global Music Awards were 9 days away, the same stage where Yong-Sook was set to perform the title track from the comeback everyone had spent a year building toward, broadcast live to more than 60 countries. Han Do-jin had a front-row seat already secured for his own flagship group's nomination, close enough to see Yong-Sook's face when everything he'd engineered finally paid off. What he didn't know was that Jennifer Carr had spent those 9 days building a case with the same relentless precision she'd once used chasing down a financial story in Los Angeles that someone else eventually stole credit for. This time, nobody was going to steal it, because this time, she made sure her own name was the only one attached to the truth. She didn't go to the tabloids. She went to a single respected financial journalist she'd worked with years earlier, someone who'd never forgotten the story she'd handed him, without asking for credit, back before she left the industry that broke her the first time. Together they traced the shell company payments through 3 jurisdictions, cross-referenced timestamps against the original anonymous account's posting history, and built a case airtight enough that even Han Do-jin's own legal team would eventually have to advise him to settle rather than fight it in open court. The night of the awards, Yong-Sook stood backstage in the final minutes before his performance, watching Jennifer review the final draft of the story that would go live the moment his set ended, timed deliberately so nothing could overshadow either his music or her name being cleared. "Are you ready?" he asked. "No," Jennifer admitted, "but I'm doing it anyway." "That sounds familiar," he said, and for the first time in 9 exhausting days, she actually laughed. His performance that night became one of the most talked about moments of his entire career, not because of the choreography or the vocals, both of which were flawless, but because of the 30 seconds after the final note, when he walked to the edge of the stage instead of exiting, and the entire stadium went quiet waiting to see what the notoriously private Yong-Sook was about to do in front of 60 countries watching live.
9 days ago, someone tried to destroy the reputation of the person who has protected mine for 3 years, using lies designed to look like truth. I'm not gonna name who did it. In about 4 minutes, you'll be able to read exactly who did it, in a story written by the woman they tried to silence.
A ripple went through the crowd, phones already rising, whispers already spreading faster than security could track.
Her name is Jennifer Carr, and she has never once, in 3 years, put her own reputation above doing what's right for the people she works for, even when it cost her something. I don't know very many people like that. I know exactly one, and I am done letting anyone in this industry treat her like she's disposable.
He paused, and something in his expression shifted, softer now, more exposed than any camera had ever caught him before. "Jennifer, if you're watching this backstage the way I know you are because you never actually leave when you say you will," a small ripple of laughter moved through the crowd. "I need you to know that everything I'm about to say next, I mean, every single word of it, in front of everyone, because you deserve the truth said loudly for once, instead of quietly where it's easy to deny." Backstage, Jennifer stood frozen, the finished article already queued and ready to publish on her phone, watching the broadcast monitor with her heart pounding somewhere near her throat. "I have spent 3 years trying to become a man worth your trust," Yong-Sook said into a stadium, gone almost completely silent. "Not because I wanted something from you, but because somewhere along the way, you became the only person whose opinion of me actually mattered. I am not perfect. I have never had to work for anything the way you've had to work for everything, and I know that. But I am asking you, in front of more people than I've ever been honest with in my life, to let me keep trying, not as your employer, not as someone you manage, as someone who is completely, hopelessly in love with you, and has been for longer than I ever had the courage to say out loud." The stadium erupted before Jennifer could even process what she was hearing, and by the time she pushed through the backstage crew toward the edge of the stage, her article had already gone live. Timestamp perfectly matched to the moment Yong-Sook stepped off the platform to meet her halfway, in front of every camera in that arena.
You could have just told me privately.
I tried that for 2 years. You kept telling yourself it wasn't real, because I never said it in front of anyone who could hold me to it. So I said it in front of everyone.
That's either the smartest thing you've ever done, or the most reckless.
"Can't it be both?" he said, echoing, almost word for word, the very first real conversation they'd ever had on a 3 a.m. flight back from Tokyo. And this time, finally, Jennifer let herself laugh without holding anything back at all. Han Do-jin's flagship group lost their nomination that night to Yong-Sook's comeback single, but that loss was the smallest part of what he lost. Within a week, the financial journalist's story had triggered an internal investigation at Do-jin's own company, board members quietly distancing themselves from a scandal that made their entire organization look desperate and vindictive. He never publicly admitted what he'd done. He didn't have to. The industry remembered, the way industries always eventually do, and 2 quarters later he stepped down from his own company, under pressure nobody bothered denying anymore. Mr. Baek, to his credit, showed up at Jennifer's apartment 3 days after the awards, with an actual apology, instead of a corporate statement, offering to reinstate her, not as a favor, but because, in his own careful words, The board finally understands what it almost lost. Jennifer accepted the apology. She didn't fully accept the job back the same way, choosing instead to renegotiate her own contract on terms that made sure no board vote could ever again decide her worth based on a single fabricated headline. 6 months later, Yong-Sook stood on a private rooftop overlooking Seoul at night, the same city that had once been nothing more to Jennifer Carr than an escape route from a career that broke her the first time, and was now, undeniably, home. He didn't reach into a jacket pocket the way every romantic film had taught her to expect. Instead, he handed her a small worn notebook, the same kind she always carried for work, and told her to open it to the last page. Inside, in his own uneven handwriting, was a single line: "Every contract needs 2 signatures to be real." Underneath it sat a ring, simple, unshowy, exactly the kind of thing Jennifer would have chosen herself if she'd ever let herself imagine choosing anything like that again. "I'm not asking you to manage my career anymore," he said quietly. "I'm asking you to let me spend the rest of mine proving I was always worth trusting." Jennifer looked up at him, at the city lights spread out below them, at the life she never expected to let herself want again, after everything that first newsroom in Los Angeles had taught her about people who used her and moved on. "Yes," she said, simply, honestly, the same way she'd said everything to him from the very first day they met. "Yes." He laughed, actually laughed, the kind of unguarded sound the tabloids had never once managed to capture in 11 years of trying, and pulled her in before she'd even finished sliding the ring onto her own finger, because his hands were shaking too hard to do it for her. For a while, neither of them said anything else. They just stood there on that rooftop, the whole skyline spread out below them like something neither of them had earned yet, but both intended to. "I need to ask you something," Jennifer said eventually, her head against his chest, the city noise soft and far away beneath them. "Anything," he said. "Somewhere in that speech tonight," she said, "you told 60 countries you loved me before you told me in a room with just the 2 of us in it. I want to know why." Yong-Sook was quiet for a moment, considering the question the way he considered everything that actually mattered to him now, carefully, instead of the way he used to answer things, quickly and for effect. "Because I spent 11 years being told what I wanted, before I ever had the chance to say it myself," he said finally. "Every headline, every contract, every woman who was supposed to be the story of the year, none of it was ever mine to decide. You were the first thing I ever wanted badly enough to say out loud on my own terms, in front of everyone, so nobody could write the story for me this time. I wanted the whole world to hear it exactly the way I meant it before anyone else got the chance to twist it." Jennifer looked up at him, something in her chest finally, fully unclenching after 3 years of keeping it deliberately shut. "That's the first time you've ever explained yourself to me, without me having to ask twice," she said. "Get used to it," he said. "I'm told I'm going to be doing a lot of that from now on." "You are," Jennifer said, and kissed him before he could argue. Somewhere below them, Seoul kept moving the way it always did, indifferent to the 2 people standing above it, who had just quietly rewritten everything either of them thought they knew about what they were allowed to want. Jennifer Carr had spent years learning that the safest thing a person could do was refuse to need anyone. Standing on that rooftop, ring still unfamiliar and warm on her hand, she finally let herself believe that needing someone and losing yourself to them had never actually been the same thing at all. That was the real ending. Not the wedding neither of them had planned yet. Not the headlines that would write themselves the next morning. Just 2 people who had both been taught the hard way that trust was something you paid for eventually, choosing, deliberately, to trust each other anyway.
And that brings us to the end of this story. If it kept you hooked, hit that subscribe and like button, drop a comment, and share it with someone who loves a great Afro-Korean story. I'll catch you right back here for the next one.